Greetings, YouTube. Wacky New England weather. 2 days ago, I got the fans out. Today, it's in the 60s. I want you to imagine that you have a car that doesn't work right. And no matter what you can do, you've tried everything in your repertoire of skills, you can't get it to operate right. In fact, it's gotten to the point where it's become far more of a hassle than you think it's worth. But then a friend of yours says, I think I can help you with that. But we're going to have to work on it together. I just can't do it for you. I said, okay, that sounds fair. So the two of you work on the car, and over the course of a couple of weekends, maybe a couple of months, depends how badly damaged your car is, I suppose, you get the car running. And you get it back to factory specs. You are so excited. You guys go out and you're tooling around. And your friend says, I notice that sometimes there's situations where you're a little bit nervous about what you're doing. Have you ever considered defensive driving courses? I know a guy. It's okay. So take some defensive driving courses, and over the course of 4 or 5 months, you really hone up your skills on defensive driving. Now, admittedly, you're probably never going to use most of these skills on a daily basis. But when it hits the fan situation arrives, wouldn't that be useful to have? So now you've got your car that's working, and you've got your defensive driving skills under your belt. And it's 6-8 months later, and one of those hit the fan situation pops up. But you're ready. You've got this covered. In the past, you would have frozen. You would have panicked. You would have had a major stress episode at this point in time that would have prevented you from doing what needed to be done to get you through this safely. This time, it's smooth sailing. Yeah, it's stressful. But the stress doesn't control you. It doesn't prevent you from getting yourself out of that tough situation and keep going down the road. Now, the astute among you may have figured out by now I'm not talking about cars or defensive driving. And any of those who have been around for a while may have also figured out by now that I'm discussing cognitive behavior therapy. Now, I am aware, painfully aware, that there are many people in the world that have a very negative view of therapy. There are lots of different types of mental health out there. Some of them, as believed by a segment of the population, are perchance a little fast with medication suggestions or prescriptions. And I can understand that. I resisted the idea for a long time of the usefulness of antidepressants, for example. But then I did some research. And when you're depressed, you're actually building synaptic connections in your brain. And the longer you're depressed, the stronger those synaptic connections become. So when you get to the point where you finally realize you're depressed, which could be very deep into the process, take my word for it, other people could probably tell you long before you will ever notice it yourself. Those synaptic connections are very strong. And even though at that point you may get antidepressants to help you, forging new, healthier connective paths is going to be more difficult because that path's already there. When you want to be doing this. That's what your brain, you've trained your brain through the use of depression to do this when you want to be doing that. So if someone else diagnoses you early in the depressive cycle, and it's a cycle, it's not going to last forever. You're early in that depressive cycle, and they get you on those medications, you will not build those strong synaptic connections driving you forward into depression, and you will be able to go to healthier places more easily with less work. So while this experience I had as a youth with depressive antidepressants was horrible because the person didn't know me and they didn't give me the right kind of prescription strength, and it was earlier in the CBT movement, and I'm not even sure if the person I saw was a practitioner of CBT. Now we have a much better understanding of that. So there is good reason to put someone on antidepressants early in their diagnosis. because it helps to prevent them from having to do a lot more work down the line. Now, one of the beautiful things about CBT is that you can completely avoid medication under most circumstances. There are going to be severe circumstances where you're going to be referred to a psychologist who's going to have to prescribe something to you because you may be in danger of hurting yourself or others. And that's a serious thing you have to listen to. But for the less severe individuals, and those who have gotten to the point where they realize that they need to change and they're willing to put the effort into it, and I wanted to avoid medication if I could. I have enough prescriptions in my system already for physiological problems. I didn't want to tack on anymore if I could avoid it. And I am admittedly far more stubborn than is probably helpful. Going to CBT isn't about medication. Going to CBT is about learning how to fix what you've got and how to learn new skills to handle the problems that you have encountered in the past that you weren't able to handle on your own. And an analogy I frequently use, in fact my therapist happens to really like the analogy, is that when you're driving 60 miles an hour down the road, it is not the time to fix your engine. You need to fix the engine when you're not moving, and you need to work on your problems when you're not in a moment of crisis. When you are not wrapped up in stress and anxiety in that moment, that is when you need to work on your problems. Even though at that moment when you're not depressed, you're not anxious, you're not, in an anxiety state, you're like, oh, I'm fine, I don't need to work on these problems. Wrong. That's the best time to work at them. When you got the car up on the blocks and you have ample opportunity and good weather and you can get in there and you can fix what needs to be fixed, so that when you do need your vehicle to work, it will work. And when you do need your mind to be able to operate properly and handle the stresses and tensions of life, you will have the skills. You're ready right there, right in your hand. You're ready to go. Because that's what it's about. It's about relearning how to deal with the world. And most of the time, these had nothing to do with us. We didn't ask to not understand how to deal with the world. Some of us were born with a predisposition to anxiety and depression. Some of us were put into stressful situations through bad relationships or abuse as a child. Some of us have ended up in this position because we are veterans of war. Both physical wars out there in the world, in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and the wars at home, in our houses, in our families. We are survivors, and we can learn the skills we need to be happier, healthier, and keep moving down the road. That's what cognitive behavior therapy is about, folks. It isn't about someone telling you what to do. It isn't someone dictating your thoughts and your behaviors and saying that this is what you do, if you don't listen to me, you're doing it wrong. No. It's about learning new skills to handle the things in the past you couldn't handle on your own. And when you get enough of those skills, guess what? You can handle them on your own. You can process information healthily. You can handle the stress better. You will not be trapped in anxiety and depression because you will have discovered that there are better ways of thinking and feeling and reacting and handling the situations that life hands you every day. It isn't a fight. You fight something, you're putting energy into it in a very negative way. It's simply learning new skills to handle the situations as they arrive and accepting the things that you can't change right now. And knowing that someday maybe you'll be able to. And the things you can't change completely, I'm diabetic. I can't do anything about that. I have learned to accept that fact. I've learned to work around it. Am I happy about it? No. But I've been able to healthily accept it and move forward. And to be healthy physically and mentally. And I don't know how some of the people in the world have acquired their opinions of therapy. Was it clouded by things the parents told them, or classmates told them, or did they listen to Tom Cruise, or did they hear things on Fox News, or is it in some kind of Western zeitgeist that I'm just not tuned into that says asking for help and learning new skills is a bad thing? There's no shame in asking for help. If I need to move a 40-pound box, I can pick the 40-pound box up. If I need to move a 400-pound box, I can't pick up a 400-pound box. And there's no shame in asking my friends to help me move that 400-pound box. There's no shame in using a dolly to help me move that 400-pound box. We don't have to go it alone. We don't have to be out there helpless without the skills we need. So I'm not sure where some of the people in the world have gotten their opinions about therapy. It is a mystery to me. But I'm telling you that cognitive behavior therapy is about helping you become the better, healthier version of yourself. About learning the skills you need to move forward. And that is something I think everybody can get on board with, don't you? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to handle the stresses of life in a better way? Whether it's your boss, or an angry parent, or a disagreeable sibling, or a spouse, or you're diabetic, or you've got cancer, or you're broke, or your car's busted. Rather than get lost in the stress and the anxiety and the panic and the depression, wouldn't it be nice to, while admitting those things are real and sincere and they exist, that we don't let them take over our lives, that we move past them, we do what we can to fix the problem at hand, and we keep moving down the road. We don't ignore it, we don't hide it, we don't avoid it. We do what we can to fix it, and we move past the things we can't. We don't obsess about the past, because I've said before, the past is a book. We can learn from it, but we can never change it. And trying to rewrite that book is going to drive you insane. You can't. It's gone. It's done. Learn from it. Refer to it occasionally if you need to. But you can't change it. There is no editing the past. But you can make sure that the now that you're writing is better than the chapters that you've lived before. And you can hold the ideal in your mind that the chapters you will write next will be better still. And that is what cognitive behavior therapy is about. Becoming better drivers, better writers, better versions of yourself, with better, more functional skills, with a factory-tuned car. You can do this. There's absolutely nothing stopping you. The only obstacle in your way is your failure to contact a cognitive behavior therapist. I implore you, if nothing else, go read a copy of the Feeling Good Handbook. Do the exercises in the book. You can pick them up used cheap. Yes, there's too many exclamation points in the book. The title is silly. The author is a smidge too exuberant. But it will help show you that you can change the way you think. You can be healthier, happier. You can be freer and lighter and not held down by the things in your life that have held you down before. And if you stall, you know you'll get going again. That momentary stops are not the end. That we can keep moving, and we will. We will overcome any obstacle in our way. Our path is open to us, and the journey doesn't ever end.